There's a whole lot of rhythm going down. I've been doing this for 7 hours. We got some real type of thing. We're going
Going down, getting
getting
down.
down.
Got a whole lot of rhythm
Rhythm.
going round.
I fucking knew you were gonna love this record, dude. I put out the bat signal, and Chris Porter saw it and came to save the day.
I genuinely didn't think I that was a shot in the dark. I was like, there's no way of all people he's gonna pick me to do this just because of my glasses and the color of my skin.
Okay, you said it. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Well, this is what I love about music, and I love about you is because one, I'll trade friendship and great conversation with somebody that I feel comfortable with and I've known for fucking years. Like I'll take that over. And dude, Avery, who doesn't know shit about music, has done like 9 podcasts in the pinch just because it's like, who do we get for Richard and Linda Thompson? I don't even know who the fuck they are until we started doing this.
Yeah, no, Parliament. Yeah, I was telling your producer, and I already forgot your name.
Jeremiah. It's all right.
Jeremiah.
It's all good.
I was telling Jeremiah, I played drums as a kid. So this record, I tried to play every song on it because I knew these were the funk grooves. This was the blueprint.
Yeah.
And and then Parliament Funkadelic was the first concert I went to like on my own.
Really?
Yeah, I remember me and a buddy of mine, my best friend at the time, we were huge fans and they were playing some free show downtown. And we got my buddy's Jeep, drove downtown from the sticks and sat there. And that was like the first time I saw like someone smoke weed out of a one hitter, like the little cigarette one. I was why does this dude keep lighting a cigarette? Like, what's going on here?
It's a bad cigarette. Yeah. It's definitely not a Marlboro. Definitely.
And it was just like, you saw Parliament they played 3 hours straight. Like people would come on, come off, doing a diaper. George Clinton showed up like 20 minutes into the show. It was just, so this record has always been a huge moment in my life, especially in my teens.
Let's start because I've known you for it'll be 15 years in August that I've known you because I met you one of the first people I met when I got into stand-up comedy. And what's so funny is like I'm writing a new bio for this tour I'm going on, and I'm like trying to like write it, and it was just like I was like because I'm doing you know Jelly Roll, right? Yeah, you know Jelly Roll. So I'm going on tour with Jelly Roll through an arena tour through like all over America, like 45 cities.
Oh, that's awesome.
He saw me do the jam. He saw me open, and he was like, "I want that. I want you to do that in the beginning and in the middle of each one of my shows, and bring up all the acts." And
that's great.
Thank you. But what was funny is I'm trying to write the bio for not just my stand-up, but like how I suddenly became this comedy and music dude. And then I was like, how much time do I spend on the Unknown Theater, which is one of the most important places in my life for everything that I've done. And if I never would have gone there, if Angelo never would have taken me there, if that show never existed, who fucking knows? So I want to go back because I've known you for that many years, but I'm thinking to myself, I was like, you've always been into music and you've always kind of had the chops to sing and to play guitar. So I want to, before we even get into this record to find out how influential it was, I want to find out, because I know you're from Kansas.
Yep.
And then you're a mystery. Then you're a professional wrestler. And then it's like, parts unknown.
Yeah.
So tell me, like, how'd you get so into music?
So my uncle was a musician my whole life. Like growing up as a kid, we would go watch Uncle Jeff play. And he was way into reggae and ska and funk and all these, he was the quintessential white. He should have had dreads. He should have been the white guy with dreads that just knew about all the musics and was very pretentious and very, how dare you listen to the Black Crowes? They're just ripping off the Stones.
Yeah, Jack Black at High Fidelity, just judgmental over every record that somebody brings up to the counter.
But Parliament to him they're like them and the Meters, like that's funk. That's the blueprint of funk.
Yeah.
And so, and Parliament, this record, you just start it off and it's just like, good evening, everybody. It's like something you've never heard your entire life.
Yeah.
And they're welcoming you in not only to this album, but into this world that they're doing. And so like there was, the 90s was Poison and Bon Jovi. And
yeah.
So to like then
the golden era, as I like to call it.
The golden hair era.
Yeah.
And so, for someone that was looking for something that was more depth and more, funk and soul has always been ground zero for me. Like that music is so undeniable. And so, as a kid, I was a drummer. And so I just wanted to learn these grooves, these drum beats, because I just thought they were so amazing. And so, and then, so I was always being, my musical sense was always being influenced by him. And so I was always the guy that would show up to high school with an Otis Redding record and people would be like, you're a loser. I'm like, am I though?
No, isn't he not the greatest rock star frontman of all time, in my opinion? It's like, dude, if there was just more video of Otis Redding, and besides some of these live, like, have you ever, I know you have, Chris, but have you heard the Otis Redding, there's like 3 discs live at the Whiskey Go-Go. Like he did these, if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It's okay. Like people are always like, if you can go see any concert in the history of mankind, what would you go see? And like, you'd be like, oh, I want to see Bob Marley or Queen at Wembley or this. And I'm like, dude, if I go see Otis Redding, it's at the Whiskey, it's just listen to it and it'll change everything you know about Otis, where you're like, that might have been one of the greatest concerts man has ever put on.
For sure. And like, if I'll go into these old radio stations and you see these old soul bills where it's like Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles. You're like, and it was $8.
Yeah.
You're just like, what? Like, that's the show. You're absolutely right. Those are the shows that given that chance when I die, those are the shows I'm going to see.
Asking this sincerely though, right now, and I want to answer from both of you. Chris, you see anybody, who are you going to see?
Aretha Franklin in her 20s.
In her 20s?
Or in 20s, 30s, like when she's
skinnier, a little fitter.
Also just killing it. Yeah. Like 71, 72, like Amazing Grace, like that era.
Yeah.
I would go see that in a heartbeat.
JT, what about you?
Dealing with dead people, like, because we can still see Paul McCartney. I mean, I know John Lennon, because I'm such a Beatles dude. I got the tat right here, but I don't know. After that David Bowie album, I want to see David. After Ron Bennington told us that David Bowie story of like quieting the room of famous people because he was just that big of a star. Like, I'd love to see David Bowie.
I'm Otis Redding, or I want to be there for the world premiere of Beethoven's Symphony No. 9. Like, I think that would be fucking dope. Like, just to like. Do you think they like pre-gamed before that kind of shit? You know what I mean?
Or if they left, like, man, that shit was off the hook,
dude. With the fucking strings and the opera singers came out. Oh, dude. Let me get a bump of that snuff, that weird powder we got from these Native American people.
Oh man,
these indigenous.
Those cellos just made me want to fuck a girl in 19 dresses.
The whole time you're just trying to you're looking at your girl like, God damn, she's got so many layers on. How the fuck am I gonna?
I bet it really stinks down there. There's none of us bathe,
and there's no AC either.
There's no AC. Could you imagine how just gross sex was in the 1600s?
Oh, God.
Like, do you want to? Not really. At all.
Yeah, it's like maybe like the Black Plague was like them getting COVID. It's like, I got the plague, so right now I can eat your ass. I can't taste or smell or anything. I'm also gonna die. I'm also gonna die in 2 days. So let's get it out.
No one had sex in August.
No.
Back in the day, they were just like, no, I gotta really like you.
Yeah. No wonder England was so popping. It was so cold there that it was like, keep the pussy at a temperature that is pleasant.
Gotta keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh, dude. Yeah, I ain't going to fucking Spain. What are you kidding me? No way. All right. So you're into, because you have like the southern roots, and not even so much like where you're from, but just the music that I've noticed you really, really like. You know what I mean? Like when you talk about the Stones or something, like you like their bluesier side, and you like the Muddy Waters, and you love, like, we both have that fucking that connection to Black Crowes, which, you know, is such a huge band of both of our lifetimes. But I didn't know that funk was something that you really were drawn to. Like, so what was it? Is it just the groove, or is it?
Oh, 100%. It's all about the groove. And it's same thing with Motown. It's why those songs can't be. Listen, I love the Black Crowes, but that version of Hard to Handle is fucking awful. And I've said that to them, so I don't mind saying that out loud.
Wait, what did you say? Also, wait, no. You can't skirt over that. Like, how did that conversation
I didn't say it was
up?
awful. We were just talking about, I go, hey, man, not for nothing, but I don't really like your version of that song. And Rich just told me, he was like, hey, man, it wasn't really what Rick Rubin and George Drakoulias came to them, and they go, we want to do Hard to Handle, but we want to do it like Walk This Way. The Aerosmith song, because that was the big, because they were doing the Run DMC thing at the time, and they're like, let's just do so if you go back and listen to Hard to Handle, the Black Crowes version, it's 100% trying to be Walk This Way.
Yeah, the beat, the groove right at the beginning, that cha cha cha, even the way the drums sound, And that's so funny, because that's the song that I found out about them, and they broke. I mean, realistically, that was what got them on MTV.
100%. But if you listen to the Otis Redding version, that's a 10 times better version. And that groove is just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And it's just these fucking white dudes from Alabama just playing these greasy ass licks. Yeah. And it just came, and it's the honesty. It's the, like, and I think that's what brings me to all music, any music that I'm into, is that it's genuine, that it's honest, it's from their experiences. And that's what's great about this record, is like, it's from note one, from word one, you were walking into George Clinton's world.
Yeah.
And his vision. And you're getting on the first two songs is him telling you what's about the fuck to happen. And then the second song is him basically giving you a tour of the mothership.
Yeah.
Like, if you really like, it's got like, and I just have this vibe of him just like walking around going, hey, that's where the kitchen is, and that's where you sleep. And, and we'll be
this laundry machine only takes quarters, but space quarters, so don't worry about it. We got a fucking machine to break.
And if you just want to walk around with no clothes on, that's fine too. I got a big dick.
My pubes are dreadlocked and colorful.
and all the music, like, if you listen to it, they're playing what is necessary and nothing else. Like there's no extra notes. There's no guy going, I'm going to stretch my guitar dick here. Like, most of the time it's just the guitar's just playing along with the bass. The Bernie Worrell's on the keys, just doing some weird jazz thing. And it's just like, the whole record is just a blueprint on how to funk.
Is this considered like top 5 funk records, or even, like, if not the greatest funk record ever? Because I don't know the list that we've got coming up, Jared. I mean, if you want to peek and see if there's any other funk, but it's like, the Meters.
It's going to be the Meters, James Brown.
Yes,
But
this is different. But hold on. But this is different funk than James Brown funk. 100%. This is all right. Because I'll say this about what I know about Clinton, because realistically, I know, Atomic Dog and the hits that I played at bar mitzvahs and shit like that. When I used to do, that's how I got introduced to George Clinton. Sure. Atomic Dog, you put that on at a fucking bar mitzvah, even the rabbi would get up there. But
ain't nothing but the dog in me.
Yeah, he's doing the slap in the shoe, getting into it. When we first started doing the podcast early on, which you were on in one of the first 10 episodes when you did ZZ Top with me, we had Funkadelic Maggot Brain. And I still say this, that record is not only maybe one of my favorites that I've discovered from doing this podcast, but it was like the Sixth Sense ending when I turned it on, because I was expecting this. I was expecting, with the beat, with the boop, the bob, hibba, dibba, dubba, doo boo. And when that album opens with once again, George Clinton talking, the world's died or Mother Earth is dang or whatever it was. And then you go into that guitar solo from Eddie something, I can't remember. And then you find out that the guy was on LSD and he told him to play like he just found out his mom died. And then in the middle of the recording goes, but now I want you to play like she came back to life. And he's fucking tripping balls. And then it goes into, can I get to that? And it goes into, oh my God, like all of that to me was like a slap in the face of like, wait, this is not only is this not really funk, but this is one of the most banging rock albums that I'd heard in years.
Eddie Hazel.
But you have to understand, funkadelic at the now it's Parliament funkadelic. They're the same thing, but at the time, funkadelic was and they were the same members for the most part. But funkadelic was like the weird, the fucking, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want to do and just put it out there. And then Parliament was more for lack of a better term, like the pop stuff, the radio, the more amateur friendly music. And so that's why they're so different, is because when they were Parliament, they're like, hey, let's turn the groove on. Let's get fucking asses shaking in the seats. And funkadelic was more like, yeah, if we make them dance, we'll make them dance, but let's do these drugs and just see what happens.
Yeah.
What other artists have like this dual personality? Like, that's just
fucking
crazy.
Garth Brooks.
Yeah. Chris
Gaines, dude. Fucking who else? Like, that's actually a really good question.
Chris Robinson to some extent did it with the Chris Robinson Brotherhood. Definitely was the more Grateful Daddy thing as opposed to the rock and roll Black Crowsy thing. Trying to think who else.
Yeah, because there are other people that like write in like a pseudonym where they're like, this is being released, but not like, well,
I guess there's a lot of artists these days that go by different names, and there's some kind of like under the radar, and they're like, we just want to do some weird shit. And like,
all right, I got one, but it's in hip hop. Del the Funky Homo Sapien did Deltron 3030, and that was like his, more, it's almost like that he went from like doing Parliament to then doing funkadelic. And I know that's a stretch and not nearly on the level of what we're talking about here, but it is considered this great hip hop record that's so fucking out there.
Damon Albarn with the Gorillaz.
Yes, there you go. There you go. That's a really good pull because I've really gotten into his music over the last couple years, and like now I'm going back and listening to Blur, and then his solo shit is fucking brilliant. But the Gorillaz are like, dude, I saw them live and I was just like, God damn, there's like 20 members on stage and they put on a fucking concert. It's great music.
Well, you have to when there's 20 people in the band.
That's true. Yeah.
You got to put the asses in the seats.
It's like, we got a lot of people to pay, dude.
Like, I always feel bad for like bands like Parliament and like Earth, Wind and Fire or Blood, Sweat and Tears. We're like, there's 11 dudes.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to
Could you imagine being the auxiliary percussionist? Like, you're first one on the chopping block, so you better bring that tambo and you better bring it hard.
It's like, fuck, I lost my cowbell. It's like the other guy in the band's like, I'm not giving you mine. I'm not giving you, like, I want your bunk.
There's a guy that plays for Elton, and he plays for a couple of other guys, but he's always the guy that like hits a tambourine and does this whole thing. And we were watching a live thing, and my mom's like, why is he doing all that shit? I was like, he's trying to save his job. He's like, no, the people love me because of my Tambo sunsets.
Tambo sunset. Hashtag Tambo sunset. Just so we know that you're listening to this episode, hashtag Tambo sunset. I'm assuming TAMBO and then sunset. Oh, that's fucking brilliant. Well, here, I wanted to get to, because I think a lot of people, they might not have listened to the funkadelic record that we did on this, and some probably have no idea other than George Clinton in this record. So I want to see, do we have a little doodad about how they became, because I got a little bit of his bio. So George Clinton is born in 1941 in North Carolina. He first formed the doo-wop group The Parliaments in 1955 out of a barbershop in New Jersey. For a period in the 60s, he was also a staff songwriter for the Motown label. The Parliaments scored a minor hit with the 67 single I Want to Testify. Clinton wanted to form a touring band on the heels of this success, planting the seeds for both his bands. However, in the 70s, the group had formed into a collective that found success under the names of Parliament and Funkadelic. So Clinton's earlier albums for the collective included their debut Free Your Mind and Your Ass Will Follow, as well as Parliament's Awesome Mew. I don't know if I said that right, but however, here we go. It was Maggot Brain that first established the collective as a force to be reckoned with, made evident through Clinton's trippy musical vision. The collective would record many albums after that, ranging from 72's lengthy America Eats Its Young to 75's energetic Let's Take It to the Stage. But it wasn't until the critically acclaimed Mothership Connection that P-Funk would truly break through as a musical deity, combining surreal lyricism and eccentric fashion sense and strong musicianship. So, I want everybody, and I know we've all listened to Maggot Brain, but if you're listening to this podcast and you've listened to Mothership Connection, do yourself a favor, because you'll enjoy this record even more if you listen to Maggot Brain before this. And you see it's like, holy, because there's elements of Maggot Brain in this, and then there's elements of this in Maggot Brain. But it's like, this is going from like Creep by Radiohead to suddenly listen to Paranoid Android. This is like such a departure in such a different direction that I think it makes this record even more enjoyable than it already is to listen to, which that is an easy statement, because this is one of the more fun records you could put on since we started doing this.
Oh yeah, and it's just, especially, first 4 tracks, you have 3 of the greatest funk songs of all time.
Yeah.
And also like all of Dr. Dre's arsenal in the first 2 records that he ever did. And also the difference, Parliament and James Brown, a lot of this you get, George Steele's Bootsy and Catfish and the drummer. And he brings them all over from James's band. And it was basically like James's band, don't do drugs, play the songs right. And if you fuck up, you get fined. But if you came over to Parliament, George was like, hey man, do acid and see what happens. And show up like it was just like a complete, I listened to an interview with Bootsy where it was just a complete different environment than they were used to. But you got that same level of musicianship. I mean, Parliament, like, it's easy to write them off because they dress weird and they wear makeup and a guy's in a diaper. So it's easy to lump them in with like bands like Kiss, but Kiss was doing all that shit to cover up for poor musicianship and mediocre songs. Yeah. Parliament, they could have shown up in it fucking wearing whatever they wanted to, and you're still going to groove. The costumes were just because they were having fun. Yeah.
It's one of the things that's always I've regretted is that I've never seen George Clinton live. He used to come to 930 Club all the time. And I just never did, which now if I see him anywhere in New York or if I'm on the road or whatever, and there's going to be a show, like 100%, I know we're not getting the George Clinton of yesteryear when he was probably, because it's like what I've learned about him is that he's not so much this writer, he's this like orchestrator, that he's not really doing a lot of the singing. I mean, he does in the talky parts, but he's this guy that he's like a good like executive producer that knows how to get a movie done. And he's like, you know what I mean? He's Brian Glazer. Like, he's like, all right, I get a good director over here. That's the bassist. All right, I get a sweet drummer over here. I get this guy to do that. I get these soul singers. And then now, all right, let's start jamming. All right, now let's talk about this. And then he just he's constantly throwing seasonings into the stew and just mixing it up and this is where his brilliance comes in, when he's like, all right, it's done. We got a song there. And then let's move on to the next thing.
And there's especially the first 2 songs, there's a chorus, but there's no verses. It's just him talking.
Yeah, it really is.
He's just walking around going, welcome to the mothership, man. Here's what's going to happen. Blah, blah, blah. I know what you're used to. And it's also the thing I love about the first song is that he's like, this is the purest funk that you're going to find. It's
raw
make
and
my
cut.
funk, make my funk the P funk. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not, and also at the time, they're one of the first bands to compare shit. They're talking drug talk.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, that stopped me in my tracks when I first started here. I was at the gym working out to this, and I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is just.
Don't want my funk stepped on.
Yeah, I don't want to. I want no baby laxative. I want this pure. I want to feel it, and you do. I mean, I keep saying this is such a fun record, but this really, like, dude, Chris, I've been doing this. How long have we been doing this, Jeremiah? How long have we been doing this podcast? 4.5 years, dude. Yeah. It is not every album is easy.
Yeah, I know.
It gets tough, dude. And there are times where it's like, how the fuck do I listen to this record again? It's not my style. It's not the mood that I'm in. This goes with everything. This goes with walking around the city. This goes with walking around the airport. This goes with working out. This goes with just chilling in the apartment, cleaning. Like, you can put this record on, and if you don't walk out of that listening experience with like a pep in your step and a little smile on your face, I mean, then you're dead. Then you're dead inside. You're dead inside.
For sure, which also might be something to address.
Yes, you should. We recommend.
But like, even if you're sad, you put on this record, and he's like, whatever part of your body needs help, just put it on the radio. Let the vibes flow through, because funk not only moves, it can remove. Like, that's what's great about this music is he's just going, yeah, I don't care what mood you're in. We're gonna take you to a new level. If you're sad, we'll make you happy. If we make you happy, we'll make you come.
I think that George Clinton, you know, is just this. I don't know if it was the drugs that did it to him or just his career or whatever, but he's always been this pioneer. Like, there's no one like George Clinton, especially in that era. I was trying to think like who would you think would be like the George Clinton that kind of took the torch from him and is kind of, is it Dr. Dre? Is it Dr. Dre? And I'm not saying just in personality, but I mean, like, you know,
I'd say Snoop more than anyone.
Why do you think Snoop?
Just because, like, he creates the world. Like, he has the world. Like, it's Snoop's world. I don't know. You know, he's very open about his drug use. Like, he's very honest with it. Like Dr. Dre, you know, he smokes weed, but now he's worth like $1 billion, and like see much of him except like in divorce things. But like George Clinton's 82 years old, and if you offered him crack, I'm sure he'd be like, fuck yeah, man, let's do some crack.
You know, like, the best compliment I've ever gotten in my life, it was after a jam at the Roxy. And the only reason bringing this up because you said this. It was after a jam at the Roxy. Wanda Sykes was on it, and she'd been drinking. And we're outside smoking a blunt, me, her, and I think Chris Red. And then Chris Red like walks away, and it's just me and Wanda. And she goes, Josh, I love you so much, I'd smoke crack with your ass. And I'm like, God damn, I love you.
Yeah, man.
You can smoke crack. Wait, hold on, wait. Now, if you could smoke crack with anybody,
I'd be George Clinton.
Really? Out of anybody?
Yeah, I mean, because name a more famous crack user.
I'm saying you can smoke. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. If we're really going to take it down, because, you know, you don't want to say like, you know, you don't want to say John Hamm and then he freaks out and fucking he's never done it before and then just trashes your place,
bro. Yeah, no. Yeah. If you're gonna do it with the number one. Like, I wouldn't do coke. Like, I'm not a big cocaine guy, but
have if Keith before?
Yeah, I did it once. And I was like, this is how I want drugs to not make me feel.
Really?
Yeah, I've always been a downer guy. But also, if Keith Richards was like, hey, I've got some fucking Keith Richards Merck style cocaine,
you're going to do it.
I'm going to do it. Yeah.
No, you have to. You can't.
But if Brett Michaels shows up with blow, I'm like, nah, I'm fine.
You know what's funny is I love that. I love that you just said that. Big J and Soder were like Bret Michaels was walking around Sirius XM and they were kind of like trying to get him to come in, and so they're like playing Poison as loud as you can. So hopefully he walks by, and they're like making jokes about him. And then he actually comes in and they sit down and talk to him and thinking he's going to be this like hand job of a dude. And then he leaves and they're both like it's like, you know, that thing that Gerard Carmichael had when he would like leave, you'd be like, oh my God, Gerard, like I think he just touched my soul. Like that's how they felt. That's how they felt about Bret Michaels. And then they were like, oh my God, it's like he wants us to call him. And they're like, we're praying that he never listens to the episode that they did, and he listened. And they're like, fuck, dude, he came out to be this great guy.
Yeah, I mean,
though.
You have to be. Like when you're Bret Mike, like you either go one of two ways. You're either the complete quintessential 80s dickhead, or you just have to own it. And I think when your hair is attached to your bandana, I think you got to be the nicer guy.
Oh man, just
like you can't be the quintessential dick and be like, anyway, just pull off your hair.
You know, I'm going to say this here, because you've known him for years, and I told this to Jay, and he couldn't believe it. You know, oh God, fuck it. Nick, my drummer, he's got like Bret Michaels' hair attached to his hat. It's not really. He's just gone so bald up top, but he's grown it long down here, and he's always wearing that hat. I remember I was talking to Jay about it. You know, Nick's bald. He goes, "What are you talking about? He's got the longest hair ever." I go, "Nah, dude." And then I showed him a picture, and he was just like, what the I mean, it's like long.
Which, by the way, how alarming is that when someone does that? When they have the long hair and then they take, you're just like, oh, okay. Try not to stare. Try not to stare. Try not to stare. Dude, I'll never forget being a kid, and I was over at my friend's uncle's house, and his uncle came home and he just pulled his hair off. And I didn't say a word for like an hour. I was just like, I knew it was a thing. I just never saw someone take it off.
We have Billy Gibbons on. I hear he's never taken his hat off. I don't know, but from ZZ Top. Speaking of ZZ Top, that's the album you did. But he had the same issue apparently. Yeah, he's got the hat on permanently.
Dude, I'm spending so much money on keeping the hair that I have right now. Like I have to do this thing where I stab my head with these little needles. And
really?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not that bad. It's like I do it like 3 times a week, and then I've got like this gangster spray that because you'd be surprised. There's comics that we know that have gotten hair transplants where they take hair from the back of your head and then they're putting it up here. That
Joel McHale.
Joe McHale, Soder did it, like Mateo Lane, like a lot of
people. But don't you have to keep doing that?
No.
Like as your hair recedes?
I think, I'm not going to say, if you're going to go bald, where you're like this whole area right here, yes. Like but see, no, dude, yours is actually good. Yours looks good. And also it looks good.
Yeah. I just bought hats. I just bought hats. Cheaper. And I keep it short, so I'm not fooling anybody.
No, it looks. And I still remember. Do you remember that day we were at the Comedy Store, and like it was back when you still had the long hair, and I had cut my long hair, and you were like, you cut your hair. I go, yeah, it's hair. It'll grow back. And you like looked at me. You're like, yeah,
because I was already because my hair was atrocious when it was long. Like I'd hoped that it would grow down, and it just kept growing out.
Yes,
And I was like, and I saw you do it. I was like, I think I can do it. And thank God, because I've never
looked great, back. Dude. You look fucking great now, dude.
Thanks,
you got into fitness. You became a himbo. You 100% became like me. You're a himbo. You're a comedian himbo. It's great. It's something that you have to accept, that we like nice shit. You like to dress nice, and you like to smell good. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that. What do you think George Clinton smells like?
I bet it's not good.
Patchouli.
Patchouli, for sure.
A hint of patchouli.
That's not racist though, right? Didn't someone get in trouble?
No, that's normally a white guy thing anyway.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
He's usually naked under those togas. I know that. So yeah, I'm sure he just smells like
Incense?
Old black guy.
Weed?
Yeah.
Well, he's gotten, like he's such an interesting character. Like, it is. I wish do we have an interview or Jared, is there any way we could just hear a little bit of him talk? Because that's the one thing I love about George Clinton is in any of the little like soundbite clips that I've seen them play of him, he talks like his music. It's very, like, yeah, it's like, well, we got to funk it up and get down with the good times and put it on the, God, that's now I'm being racist. Now I'm like, we got to hit that bibba da bop doo doo. He's just got like
that's him though. That's not being racist. He pioneered it. He was just like, man, we got to come down on the one, baby.
Yeah.
And I did listen to an interview with him and Bootsy kind of preparing for this.
Yeah,
and
what was that on? I can pull it up.
It was on Spotify. It's an RS interview.
See if we can find video. Yeah. Cause I'd rather look at him. Well, here's a good thing is that the names of them, to be recruited, you had to have like a funk persona. Like you got Bootsy Collins, Dr. Funkenstein. Like what would be your, like the daddy long legs of
the
funk.
four-eyed funk of Chris Porter.
Yeah. They call me Rosacea Face Meyers, the funk daddy. Eggs in my hands.
Gravel the gravelly voice tunes of Josh Meyers.
We got them real time skate, hunky chunky bear them. Yeah, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna listen to this one on my way to the cardiologist after. Don't worry, I'm fine, everybody.
You definitely feel like you're part of a movement, a part of a thing when you're listening to this record. You're just like, yeah, I'm on the mothership. We can do this. Yeah. It is one nation under a groove. Come on.
Yeah. So I want to talk about a word that I keep saying since I've heard this, because this is what I love about listening to some of these records, and especially the 70s, which had some of the best slang,
vocabulary.
Out of any era. Like I love calling money bread. Like I always talk about, we mentioned Billy Gibbons already. Yeah. And when Billy Gibbons did the 500, Jared, I don't know, were you on with this? Remember, it was like we're doing it, and we talked for like an hour and 20. He's the nicest guy ever, and I go, Billy, thank you so much for coming on. And he goes, oh man, this was a gas, and I'm like, oh, I called it a gas. Like that just made me. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
So back in the day, I got to meet Bootsy.
Oh wow!
I was opening for Tommy Davidson in Cincinnati, and I'm not kidding you. I'm on stage. I was featuring, and this dude walks in, and I'm like, he looks like Bootsy Collins, but like casual. I called it a casual Bootsy, which also sounds like a sex thing.
Yeah.
And he was just wearing all black, but he had gemstone shoes on, and he had the Star Child glasses on. And he just walks in, and in my head, I'm like, that looks like a casual Bootsy Collins. And he sits down, and he walked back, and it's him and his brother Catfish, who played for Parliament and also wrote the guitar riff to Sex Machine.
Oh, wow.
They're backstage, and I'm losing my mind. It's one of the moments where I'm like not being cool about it. Like, I'm just like, but I finally got up to Bootsy was leaving, and I just said, hey man, I just want you to know Parliament has been one of the biggest influences on my musical journey. And he just went, on the one, baby.
Oh,
I was just like, oh fuck, that just happened.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never been that cool in my entire, that's the pinnacle of my coolness. Right.
And then he went into dap, and you tried to shake it, and then you just you covered his hand. Just the worst thing that you could do in that situation. You're like, yeah.
And then I gave him a copy of my rap CD that I've been working
on. One of my favorite things that they say in this is tear the roof off the mother. I love that. And I think as a comedian, I've watched you kill so many times. So I want to know when in your career, and a lot of comics, we hate saying the word killed. It's like, we're realistic. Yeah. We're always striving to get better. If somebody says they killed every show, they're not killing. And
they have a low bar as to what killing is.
Low bar. When did you tear the roof off the mother? What was that set that you remember forever?
Oh man, it had to be one of the live last comic standing ones. Just where, I mean, that was the first time thousands of people had come to see me. And like, it was a huge event. I think it was it was either that or like I want to say the Moore Theater in Seattle. Josh Blue and I did a show there during that whole run, and it had sold out like 2 weeks in advance, and it was just. But also, I was so drunk for that show, like I don't even remember how it went. I remember it being a big deal, but you know what's weird is, comics don't really remember the good ones. I can name all the shit ones.
Give me the shittiest.
All the worst ones.
Give me the shittiest of the shit.
Kemper Arena, 2000.
You know the date, October 15th.
2000. Like, I was a feature at best, and they had called me and a friend to do a show after an independent hockey league game. And we did a show in an arena that sat 14,000 people for about 75 people.
Oh my God.
And it was at the end of they didn't even announce we were going to be there till 3 minutes left in the third period. And we were up by 3 goals. So everyone was already leaving.
Yeah.
And then they asked everyone from the west side of the arena to move to the east side of the arena. So for the comedy show. So everyone from the west side of the arena left.
Which they loved that.
Yeah. So it was literally me and like 75 people, and they were all under the age of 8 or above the age of 60. There was no one in the middle, and it was 20 minutes of sheer torture.
How much you get paid?
Like $300. It wasn't bad. Yeah, but
terrible.
I remember we showed up to the comedy club Monday morning as soon as they opened, so we could get our checks before they got the report.
Yes. Oh yeah, I've been there. I've been there, dude. Yeah, that's so true. Like you like I can remember sets where I walked off and I was like, yes. But it's those bad ones that are the ones that really in stand up, it's like it's I wonder if bands feel the same way, if they're like, because I bet you they remember the good ones. Like they don't really, the bad ones of course, but music, there's bad ones are so few and far between. Maybe it's like there's tech issues, or like maybe one of the band members is too drunk and he's fucking up like the keys or whatever. But it's
I literally just did a radio show with Steve Gorman, the former drummer of the Black Crowes, and he rattled off like 3 shit Crows gigs like in a row.
Isn't he like angry though? Like I've never met him, and I need to read that book. And and I love him as a drummer. No, I just, for some reason, and maybe that's just me assuming because he wrote a book very anti-Black Crowes, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say he just told his story. I don't think it was anti this or that. I mean, obviously he has a discouraging view of the brothers.
Yeah.
But I mean, I read the book. There was nothing in there that I was like, that didn't happen. It was all, he's a pretty honest dude. And no, he doesn't have any ill will towards the boys. He's glad they're doing what they're doing, and he's happy doing what he's doing.
But that's like a human condition thing to just like remember the worst, right? It just like imprints on your soul.
Well, so I do remember like the recent good ones. Like I just did the Boston Garden in front of Bert.
Yeah, that was great.
That was amazing. I did well. Did I tear the roof off? No, I don't think so. Like Bert was never worried. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there have been a handful of shows. I don't remember them, but there's just those nights, those Saturday nights where you're clicking, they're clicking, and it feels like this. It always feels like this. You walk off stage like, oh, the new hour's done. I just finished it. Everything's great. And then the next show, you're like, oh no, I still have a lot of work to do. Yes.
It's always the back and forth. I actually do remember. And I still think this might've been the greatest set that I've ever done. After the accident, when I was on opiates for 7 months, I got off opiates, in May of 2012. And, I was going through, it was a bad detox, like really, really bad detox. And I was very broke. And I needed money, and I got offered, maybe while I was still using, I got offered to open for Lunel at UC Northridge. And this is day 2 of the detox. And that morning, Julia Levitaire, said I should go to like a spa to like sweat out all the toxins. She was like kind of like helping me, bringing me juice, cooking me food. And so I go to this spa and do exactly what she says. Like, I mean, I got like a massage and I went in the hot water. I went in the cold water. I did the sauna. I did the fucking steam room. I did a body scrub, which is always the most awkward thing in the world when this Asian man, because you're naked and they get every crevice, dude. They get in between your doodads and they do it in a motion where they almost punch your balls and dick with one hand and then scrub very quickly as they go right underneath that
while
punch.
They're wobbling. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. They're listen, they're the best at what they do and they're great at it. If you haven't had a scrub by an Asian man, make that a plan in 2023 or at least 2024. So that night I was booked at UC Northridge and I remember I drove over there and all the toxins are rushing out of my body. Like it hurts. My stomach feels like snakes are fighting and I haven't slept because it's so hard to sleep and I'm just pale and dehydrated and it's just, you can't keep anything in, you can't keep anything down. And I show up, I listened to Under the Bridge by Red Hot Chili Peppers about 75 times on that ride over. And I get there and I walk in and it's in their student union and there's like realistically, 400 to 500 kids just milling around in their game room. There's a stage over there. And most of them black too. It's for the, I think it's for the Black Student Union. And I walk in and I meet the booker and we go into this hallway and she goes, all right, so we got a host. It was a student. They're going to go up and do about 10. Then they're going to bring you up. You do about 20. Here's your check. And yeah, that's it. And nothing's off limits. Say whatever you want. And I'm like, that's great. And I look at her, I go, hey, is there a green room anywhere I can lay down? Like, I just don't feel well. I think I got food poisoning. And she goes, unfortunately, this is it. And we're in the hallway.
Oh, like, yeah.
There's people walking by and I go, this is the green room. She goes, yeah. And I go, all right, I'm just going to lay here on the floor. Just nudge me when it's time for me to go up. And I literally lay on the ceramic floor. I in the fetal position, I mean, almost shaking, like, and like, lo and behold, 20, 30 minutes later, and people were like walking by and I'm just this white dude at the Black Student Union laying on the floor that's like shivering, and they nudge me and I go on stage and all I wanted was to finish that 20 minutes. I didn't give one shit how I did. I didn't care what they thought of me. I didn't care how I looked, what I said. I just said whatever the fuck I could to fill that time. And it annihilated.
Yeah.
And because I think you know this about stand-up, when you don't give a fuck and you take all the power away from the audience, because we're funny people and stand-up comedy is 90% confidence. And all the rest is just like making them, because all you got to do is just make them feel like you know what you're doing. And if you don't give a fuck, then they're like, oh, we have no power over him, so let's just fucking go. Dude, I crushed. And to the point where Lunel, after the set, was like, she gave me her number. She was like, dude, like, we're homies for life now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's like, I actually told her that, I think, story when I had her on the podcast. She's like, oh, I remember. I was like, yeah, I was going through OBD docs. I was going through OBD. She's like, oh, I know. You look like butt cheeks that night. You look horrible.
Yeah, man. I tell comics all the time, if there's a set you absolutely don't want to do, that'll be the set that you figure out what you are doing on stage. Like you will, because you literally pull back all the, man, I hope this works. Man, I hope they like me. And you just go, I'll never forget Uncle Funny's Fort Lauderdale. I think I was I was headlining and Hedberg showed up the next night and I couldn't have given a fuck. Like I was exhausted. I literally showed up to the club from the airport. I had flown into Miami. It took 2 hours to get up to Fort Lauderdale. And like you said, I had one of the best sets I had at the time. And it was just and that was really when I found that kind of angry persona that I currently use. Because before then I was very goofy and like a little more Harland Williams-esque, just like, what the fuck?
It's your funkadelic. It's your funkadelic.
It's my funkadelic. And then I got up there and I was like, when I figured out Angry and like, I was like, this is way better. This is just such an easier, this is more me. And, but yeah, so no, I totally understand what you're getting at with that.
I love it. I love it. All right, Jer, what are the things that we need to mention about this record, dude? Because there's that 45-year-old white guy and that's mad at us right now that we're talking stand up and not funkadelic. You don't get it, you don't get it, Porter. Like, there's, woo, they get mad sometimes and throw kind of fits.
I think one of the most, I mean, a lot of this music, and it's an integral to the West Coast stuff, and Jeremiah and I were talking about before, is the Moog synthesizer that Bernie uses, which is stuff like you hear it in Earth, Wind and Fire, Summer Madness. Just it's that keyboard that can go.
Oh, like, yeah.
That's a Moog, and it's basically a keyboard with a lot of dials. It was really made famous by Robert Troutman from Zap. If you listen to those records, like More Bounce to the Ounce. Yeah. So like he and the Talk Box, like all that stuff that we're all so familiar with, all that stuff's through a Moog. And it's, I mean, funk records in the 70s, you had, if you weren't James Brown, you had a Moog.
West Coast hip hop. That's all. It's the first thing comes to my mind.
This record, if you don't hear the Chronic in every song, then you don't know the Chronic, because it's like you can hear "Let Me Ride," that like,
yeah.
What a great,
but also like, Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, they all used it.
But like, think about this, and I mean, this is, you got to give props to Dr. Dre on this for recognizing the gold in an era of the beginning of real sampling, because I mean, it's because he still changes stuff just enough that it can feel like his, and gives the credit throughout the Chronic to George Clinton. If I'm not mistaken, George Clinton's on the record, you know, like I double check that math, Jer, but like I'm almost positive
he's on it.
Yeah. Well, Parliament was huge on the West Coast. Like it was such a much more bigger deal on the West Coast than it was on the East Coast. That George was saying we're all over LA radio, and that's where they got it. I mean, that's where Dre knew these songs because they were all over K-Day and all these other places back when Dre was a teenager.
I was going to ask, why do I hate on Diddy though for his samples more than Dr. Dre? Is it because Diddy just can't rap? Like, I just feel like probably is so much better in terms of stealing from.
But I think, especially with Diddy, like when you go into like the big moments of like Puff Daddy and the Family, I think the songs were a little more contingent on the sample. Like with Dr. Dre, those samples are just kind of the beat, and the rapping is kind of what makes it great.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the Diddy stuff, like I just like the Gap Band fucking the beat, you know. I just like the beat more than, you know, especially once B.I.G. leaves, and Puff Daddy for what he is as a producer is a terrible rapper.
Horrible.
He really is.
Yeah, he really is.
And so you're just more in tune to what the music is because you're just trying to forget about what he's saying.
And I think that those original, like the albums that came out of the West Coast hip hop sound there's more good than there's bad, whereas with Diddy there's more bad than there's good. And so you can, you know, yes, like he did some of the shit that he did with the Family, like All About the Benjamins is a good song, but you know, but if you think about like, you know, I'm coming out, that's just using that, or like that's a good song, but you just have so much crap that he had put out, and it was too much. Whereas the West Coast sound, you kept, it would pop up on MTV and it would pop up on the radio, but you weren't like I felt like we were being force fed Diddy, whereas like you were getting I may rephrase this. I could say, I should have said this right at the beginning. You're getting quality over quantity. That's what it is.
100%.
And I think that there was too much Diddy, whereas there wasn't enough P-Funk, fucking Chronic-y. You know, you literally had Dre and Snoop, and then everything else from that point was like there wasn't, you know, he had to release another album years later just to kind of, because it was the first one was so big.
Yeah,
What
so
else?
other filler facts. We got Bootsy Collins, who George Clinton produced for, as well as Red Hot Chili Peppers, their album Freaky Styley in 85. And then back to the hip hop thing. Clinton's quote is, "Sure, sample my stuff." He remarked in 96, "Ain't a better time to get paid than when you're my age. You know what to do with money. You don't buy as much pussy or drugs with it. You just buy some."
You goddamn right, dude. Goddamn right. Clinton, what were the stats on this record? Let me see if we got them. The album received
it went gold.
Yeah, the critics and fans loved it. It's been viewed to be one of the best P-Funk albums ever made. It became the first P-Funk album to be certified gold and later platinum. And on June 5th, 1976, almost a half a year after its release, it peaked at number 13 on the Billboard 200. And in total, it spent 37 weeks there. Exactly a week afterwards, it peaked at number 4 on the top R&B hip hop records chart. And in total, spent 33 weeks there. Among those accolades, VH1 once named it the 55th greatest album of all time. Is this the only time? Yes, this is the only time we're talking about George Clinton in Parliament on the 500. And on the 2020 re-rank, because this list, we're using the 2012 list for this podcast. On the 2021, the one that came out after George Floyd, which changed a lot of, like, they asked, it wasn't just all old white guys, submitting their 500 greatest albums. This one actually drops to number 87 on the 2020 re-rank at 363.
Wow. I find that hard to believe. You'd think it would be more revered as time went on, when you see just what an impression it made on the music world.
Yeah. Well, I'd actually be surprised to find out, Jer, if you want to look it up, what did Maggot Brain do? Did Maggot Brain go back, or, because it's got to be on there? I'd be shocked if Maggot Brain's not on there.
I mean, because I really, they say, like, you measure greatness by what it changed. Like, everything changed after this record. Like, especially in the funk world, like, people are like, oh my God, like, we can make not just a record that fucks, but also, like, create a world where people can come in, and this isn't just a record that you're walking into. You're walking into this community.
I love it. Yeah, you said it so well. It's a world. But yeah, Maggot Brain went from 479 when we did that from with Baron Vaughn, and it went all the way down on the 2020 re-rank to number 136.
Well deserved. I think that album, look, it's apples and oranges. They're totally different records, both great in their own ways, like, completely, both influential in their own ways. But fuck, man, like, this is why I enjoy doing the podcast, is because you get these records that come out sometimes that you really, really weren't expecting to enjoy as much as you did. And man, it's like, it's just this record is making me want to listen to more funk. I put on the Brothers Johnson. I've been listening to the JBs. There's
James Brown in the Jungle Groove.
Yes. What, did we do that? I think we did that on this podcast, didn't we?
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, we did. We did. Oh God, dude. You want to talk about a sample? Every drum beat from that record is on some hip hop record. We spent 90% of the time going, well, this was sampled on this and this was sampled on that.
Yeah. Clyde Stubblefield just puts on a clinic.
Yeah. All right.
And we didn't even talk about aliens, because we had them shot down UFOs this week, which I don't know how deep you want to go into that, but I will say this quote from George Clinton's pretty solid. He said, "We put black people in situations nobody ever thought they would be in, like the White House. I figured another place you wouldn't think black people would be was in outer space. I was a big fan of Star Trek, so we did a thing with a pimp sitting in a spaceship shaped like a Cadillac, and we did all these James Brown type grooves, but with street talk and ghetto slang."
Yeah, he was a huge sci-fi fan. Like, that's what blew me away, is that this album, I can't remember what the book was. It's not Chariots of the Gods or something like that, but it was a book about, Earth meeting aliens. And this record, he goes, in my vision, the aliens were black. And that's what this record is. And so they built the Mothership Connection for the ship that's on the cover is actually the ship from The Day the Earth Stood Still, the movie.
Oh, wow.
And then they went out and built like a life-size mothership to use for their live shows. And George would come down in the mothership. Like that's how he made his entrance. And that mothership is now in the Smithsonian.
Oh,
dude, that's crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to see him.
Mothership Connection came out of George Clinton and Bootsy Collins seeing a UFO one night. We were in the Bermuda Triangle. Collins were called to Uncut Magazine. We were fishing and getting high, and the mothership.
Uncut. By the way, Uncut Magazine, the best magazine for uncircumcised penis men. It's like the maxim for.
It is
the maxim for the goys.
Man, it is way better than Sausage Tips, which is the crack to its mad.
Oh, that's such a low-hanging fruit joke, but man, that's so funny.
I'm in a Town Place Suites. This isn't high-end comedy.
Dude, here, I gotta run. I gotta go get my heart checked. We gotta wrap this up. I hate to wrap this up, man, because we'll have you back, Porter. Like, you definitely, please. I love having you on. I love you. So we got to do these. We ask everybody these questions.
Okay.
What's your favorite song on this record?
It would probably be "Tear the Roof Off the Sucker."
I'm gonna go track one, man. I love the raw and cut. Now this is a loaded question because there's so few. But what song on this record do you skip over? I hate to say hate or dislike, but what have you skipped over?
I don't really skip over any. You know, that was a funny thing. You know, you listen to the hot tracks as anyone, and normally I would have skipped over. Like, you don't want to skip over Handcuffs because that's put your handcuffs on your mama. What a great line.
Yeah.
Probably Night. I mean, I guess the last one, Night of the Thumposaurus People, but really, I'm probably not going to skip it.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I'm not saying I disliked that, the last song on the record, but it wasn't like you could have moved some of the other stuff that was on there up and vice versa. Yeah. It's like, I liked the pacing of this record though, but, if I had to pick one, I would say Night of the Thumposaurus Peoples. All right. Can you fuck to this record?
100%. You better. Even if you're not going to, even if you start the record not fucking, you're probably going to be fucking by track 4.
Yeah. This is definitely, I think the most fuckable one. I mean, I think track 1. Track 1 or track 2. You can is like if I'm pulling one off for the sex playlist. Track 1. It's track 1's. I dude. If you don't put this on and hear P Funk wants to get funked up and you're like ready to, I'm telling you, it's just this is like musical Prozac, right?
Musical Viagra.
Yeah, I want Viagra, but it's Viagra and Prozac. Proagra. All right. What would be your elevator pitch to get somebody to listen to this record, Porter?
If you want to hear how funk got started, this is one of the records.
Perfect. That's perfect. I agree. If like to all the listeners, man, like I keep telling you to listen to the records, but you know, do Maggot Brain, do this, and then just open up your horizon to this incredible music that came out in the 70s and really to be the end of the 60s. But you know, you're getting all the hip hop that you've listened to for the last 50 years, because hip hop's been out for fucking 50 years now, man. It all comes from you know, a lot of it from this record. So
they even do the first shit talking song on Take It to the Stage is nothing but them calling out every funk artist that they thought stole from them and telling them why they're not very good.
Yeah, that's what fucking Tupac did, where he's like, "Fuck you, you stole from Arista Records and this motherfucker." Yeah, dude.
Yeah, well, the Parliament did it in 1975, where they call James Brown. They go, "Oh, the Godfather," more like the grandfather, and they go, "Earth, hot air, and no fire." Like that's
they're badass.
So yeah.
Promote away, dude, please. Anything you want to promote?
I am on tour right now. I got a new special coming out in April on YouTube called There's No Money in Babies. And just go to chrisportercomedy.com for all the other stuff.
Dude, I love you. Thank you, brother.
Love you too, brother. Thank you for having me.